The phone hummed on my desk, its screen flashing a number I didn't know. Like a stranger knocking at dusk, I was 28, tucked into the rhythm of a Wednesday afternoon in my cramped Chicago apartment. The kind of place where the radiator hissed more than it warmed. Something about that insistent buzz made my fingers pause over my keyboard. A ripple of unease curling in my chest. I answered. And a voice. Clipped. Professional. Sliced through the quiet. Peyton Carter. This is Charles from Liberty National Bank. My coffee mug. Still warm. Felt heavier as he spoke words that didn't belong in my world mortgage. 523. $0. Overdue. The air thinned. And I stammered. There's a mistake. I don't own a house. Charles's tone didn't waver. Each syllable a hammer. The loan, taken 3 years ago, lists you as the primary borrower. Miss Carter, your social security number. Date of birth, it's all here. I gripped the phone. My pulse a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. 3 years ago. I was scraping by. Balancing a junior marketing job and student loans. A house I didn't even own a decent couch. My mind snagged on a memory Jessica. My younger sister. Prattling about her dream home at a family barbecue. Her voice bright with want she couldn't afford. The backyard had smelled of charred burgers. And Mom's laughter had drowned out my quiet doubts. Hadn't Dad said something about helping her? I told Charles I'd call back. My voice a brittle thread. The apartment closed in. Its peeling wallpaper and thrift store lamp suddenly foreign. A mortgage. $500,000. The numbers danced. Unreal. Like a fever dream. I stood, pacing the narrow strip of hardwood, my sneakers scuffing softly. Jessica's face flashed her careless grin. The way she'd always leaned on Mom and Dad to cushion her falls. They called me the steady one. The daughter who didn't need hand-holding. But this... My breath hitched. A shard of betrayal lodging somewhere deep. If this wasn't a clerical error, it was something worse, something that wore the faces of family. I sank into my chair, staring at the phone as if it might confess. The city hummed beyond my window. Oblivious cars honking. A dog barking faintly. 3 years ago. Jessica had moved into that sprawling house in the suburbs. All glass and sharp angles. The kind of place that screamed ambition beyond her means. I'd smiled at her housewarming, clutching a cheap bottle of wine, while Mom gushed about our Jess deserving it all. Had they known then? My fingers trembled, hovering over the bank's number. I didn't dial. Not yet. The truth, whatever it was, felt like a blade I wasn't ready to touch, but it was there, waiting. And something inside me a quiet, unfamiliar spark promised I wouldn't let it cut me silently. The night after the call, sleep eluded me. My ceiling a map of cracks I traced in the dark. By morning, my apartment's dim light felt like an interrogation room. The coffee maker's gurgle a mocking companion. I sat at my kitchen table, a wobbly secondhand thing, and opened my laptop. The bank's number burned in my mind. But first, I needed proof something to anchor the chaos Charles had unleashed. My fingers flew across the keyboard, searching mortgage fraud and identity theft. Each article a punch to the gut. Words like forgery and criminal liability glared back. Cold and unyielding. Could my own family have done this? I called the bank, voice steadier than I felt, and requested the loan documents. The clerk, a woman with a mechanical kindness, promised to email them within the hour. As I waited, I rifled through a cardboard box under my bedbank statements. Tax returns. Anything that might disprove my name on that loan. The papers smelled of dust and time. Each one a reminder of my careful life, built without handouts. My phone pinged, and the email arrived. A PDF heavy with consequence. I opened it, and there it was, my name, Peyton Carter, typed neatly across page after page, my birth date, my social security number, all correct, and the signature mine. But not, the loops were too smooth, the slant too deliberate, like a stranger wearing my skin. I zoomed in, my breath shallow. The signature wasn't just close, it was practiced. A mimicry that chilled me. I knew my hand messy, rushed, and the P was always a little lopsided. This was someone else's artifice. Someone who'd studied me. My hands shook. Coffee forgotten. As I scrolled through the terms, 30 years, 523, $0, a house in Oak Park, Jessica's house, the truth settled, sharp as a splinter. My parents, who'd always smoothed her path, had signed my future away. For her, the kitchen walls seemed to tilt, the fluorescent light buzzing like a trapped fly. I pushed back from the table, needing air, but the betrayal clung like a damp cloth. Memories flickered. Mom slipping Jessica cash after her college dropout. Dad shrugging off my late-night shifts because Peyton's got it together. I'd been their safety net, the one who didn't complain. Now, my credit, my stability, my name, they'd taken it all without a word. I grabbed a notebook, scribbling dates, details, anything to ground me. The loan was 3 years old, signed when I was 25, too buried in work to notice. Had they forged other things? Bank accounts, credit cards. My phone buzzed a text from Mom. Hey, honey, dinner Sunday, miss you. The normalcy of it burned. Her words a mask over what they'd done. I typed sure and hit send. My fingers cold. I wasn't ready to confront them. Not yet. I needed more evidence. Not just pain. Back at my laptop. I pulled my credit report. Heart sinking as the mortgage appeared. A black mark dragging my score down. I printed it, adding it to a growing pile the loan papers. My ID. Old emails from Jessica about her perfect house. Each document was a brick in a wall I was building. Though I didn't yet know its shape. The day bled into evening. My apartment shadowed except for the laptop's glow. I thought of Jessica's housewarming. Her laughter as she showed off granite countertops. And Mom's proud smile. I'd felt small then. My thrift store dress out of place. Had they planned it even then? The question gnawed, but another rose. Quieter. Fiercer. What else had they taken? I closed my eyes. The city's distant pulse seeping through the window. This wasn't just about money. It was about trust. Fractured beyond repair. And as I stacked my papers, I felt something shift or resolve. Fragile, but growing. That I wouldn't let them erase me. The drive to my parents' house felt like crossing a border. The city's clamor fading into suburban stillness. Sunday evening draped their street in a golden haze. Porch lights flickering to life. I parked my sedan's engine ticking as it cooled, and stared at the familiar brick facade once a haven. Now a stage for truths I wasn't sure I could voice. My notebook, heavy with printed evidence, stayed in the back seat. This wasn't about papers yet. It was about seeing their eyes, measuring their guilt. I knocked. The sound swallowed by the hum of cicadas, and Mom's smile greeted me, bright as if nothing had fractured. Inside, the dining room smelled of rosemary and warm bread, a cruel echo of countless Sundays. Dad slouched at the table's head, his fork scraping against a plate of roasted chicken, while Jessica lounged across from him, her manicured nails tapping her phone. No one looked up as I slid into my seat, the chair creaking under me. Their chatter swirled Jessica's gripe about her neighbor's dog, Mom's cooing praise, Dad's grunt about work. I chewed slowly, the food tasteless, my pulse a steady drum in my ears. Their normalcy was a mask, and I waited for it to slip, halfway through dessert. As Mom passed the apple pie, I set down my fork. I got a call from the bank. I said, my voice low, deliberate, like dropping a stone into still water. The room stilled. Forks hovering. Jessica's phone froze mid-scroll. Something about a mortgage. My name's on it. Mom's laugh was too quick. A brittle chime. Oh, honey. Probably a mix-up. Jessica's gaze darted to her plate, her fingers twisting a napkin. Dad cleared his throat. Eyes on his pie. I leaned back, letting the silence stretch. A taut wire. It's 523, 0. I pressed, my tone even, eyes flicking between them. For a house I don't own, Mom's hand fluttered to her necklace. A nervous tick. Peyton. It's nothing serious. We just needed your name to help Jessica qualify. You're not paying anything. Jessica nodded. Voice sharp. It's just a formality. You've got the good credit. A formality. The word landed like ash. Gray and weightless. They didn't flinch. Didn't apologize. They believed their lie that my life was theirs to borrow. I nodded. Lips pressed tight. And said, Got it. Mom beamed. Mistaking my calm for surrender. Jessica resumed scrolling. Dad took a sip of coffee. They thought it was over. But the ember in my chest glowed hotter, promising a fire they couldn't see. Driving home. The streetlights blurred into streaks. My knuckles pale on the wheel. Their words looped. A bitter refrain, nothing serious. Just a formality. I'd sat at their table. Invisible as always. While they justified theft. But I wasn't the girl who'd once nodded to keep peace. The city skyline loomed ahead, sharp against the dusk. And I knew what came next. Wasn't loud accusations, it was action. Quiet and unyielding. Monday morning broke gray. The city's pulse muted by a drizzle that streaked my apartment's windows. I called in sick. My voice flat as I spoke to my boss. Then drove to a coffee shop tucked between a laundromat and a used bookstore. The air inside was thick with espresso and damp wool. A refuge for secrets. I sat in a corner booth. My pile of documents, loan papers, credit report. Scribbled notes spread before me like a battle map. At 9:00 sharp, Mr. Warner arrived. His gray suit crisp. Eyes like flint. He was the attorney a coworker had sworn by. Known for cutting through family messes with surgical precision. I slid the papers across the table, watching his face as he scanned them. He set the stack down. His gaze steady. This is fraud. Plain and simple. Identity theft. Likely by someone close. The words landed heavy. Not a shock, but a confirmation. Like a door locking shut. He outlined the path file, a police report. Dispute the loan with the bank. Prepare for a fight that might turn ugly. You ready for what this'll do to them? He asked. I nodded. My throat tight. I'm ready to take my life back. Warner's lips twitched. Not quite a smile. And he handed me his card, promising to draft the dispute letter. I left the shop. The rain colder now. But my steps felt lighter. Purposeful. The police station smelled of stale coffee and ink. Its fluorescent lights buzzing like a headache. At the counter, I handed over my folder, now thicker with Warner's notes. The officer, a woman with tired eyes, flipped through it, her brow creasing. Your own family. She murmured, more to herself than me. I stood straighter, the weight of her pity glancing off me. They made their choice. She stamped the report, her pen scratching as she logged it, and gave me a copy. Its edges crisp against my fingers. Official. Irreversible. I mailed the dispute letter from a post office nearby. The clerk's chatter fading as I signed the certified form. The envelope felt like a grenade. Small but explosive. And I let it go. Days later, the silence in my apartment was broken by a sharp knock. Through the peephole, I saw Mom. Her coat soaked. Face twisted with something raw anger. Fear. Both. I opened the door but didn't step aside. How could you drag the police into this? She spat, voice fraying. You're tearing us apart. Her hands clenched, as if she could grip the family's image and force it whole. I studied her. The woman who'd once braided my hair. Now a stranger defending a lie. You tore it apart when you used my name. I said, soft but unyielding. Like a blade sheathed in silk. Her eyes widened. Searching for the daughter who'd bend. She found none. You've destroyed us, she whispered. Tears spilling. I shook my head. I'm just done fixing what you broke. The door clicked shut. A sound sharper than any shout. And I stood still. Heart racing. Not with guilt, but with release. Jessica's calls came that night. A flurry of voicemails I deleted unheard. Their buzz like flies against glass. The bank's response arrived a week later. A letter in my mailbox. Its seal unbroken until I sat at my kitchen table. They'd suspended the loan, pending investigation, and offered a formal apology. Words stiff but validating. Warner emailed, confirming next steps, affidavits, possible court filings. Each action was a brick laid in a new foundation, one they couldn't touch. I thought of Mom's tears, Jessica's desperation, and Dad's silence at that dinner. They'd built their world on my compliance, expecting me to crumble, but I was done carrying their weight. Outside, the city moved on, its rhythm unbroken buses rumbling, laughter spilling from a bar downstairs. I leaned against my window, the glass cool against my forehead. The fight wasn't over, but I'd claimed the first victory. Not with screams, but with steps they hadn't foreseen. Their lies were unraveling, and I was no longer the shadow in their story. For the first time, I felt the shape of a life that was mine, its edges sharp but true, and I held it close, ready for whatever came next. Weeks passed like a held breath, the city's rhythm a distant hum against the quiet that settled over my life. My phone, once alive with family texts, lay silent, no calls, no guilt-laced messages, just a void where their voices used to be. At first, the absence stung, a bruise I pressed in the dark, wondering if I'd severed too much, but slowly, the ache dulled, replaced by a fragile lightness. I'd been erased from their story, and in that erasure, I found space to breathe. My mornings, once tethered to their expectations, became mine. I wandered a farmer's market on Saturdays, the air sharp with basil and fresh earth, buying a jar of honey that caught the sun like amber. Its sweetness lingered on my tongue, a small defiance against the bitterness they'd left. I started running along the lakefront, the Chicago skyline glinting across the water, my sneakers pounding a cadence of reclaiming. Each step shook loose memories I'd carried too long. Mom's distracted nods, Jessica's careless demands. The legal fight churned on, a steady undercurrent. I signed affidavits sent by Mr. Warner. Their legalese a map of my disentanglement. The bank's investigation deepened. But I didn't dwell on it. Instead, I enrolled in a woodworking class, my hands learning the grain of oak, the slow art of shaping something whole. The workshop smelled of sawdust and linseed oil, and as I sanded a small box, I felt my edges softening too, not from weakness but from choice. Nights found me on my balcony, a chipped mug of chamomile in hand, the city's lights pulsing below. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was a canvas, vast and unclaimed. I thought of the girl who'd once apologized for existing, who'd swallowed slights to keep the peace. She was gone. Not with a crash, but with a quiet unraveling. I didn't crave their apologies or their ruin, just distance. A horizon free of their shadows. A neighbor's radio drifted up, playing jazz, and I closed my eyes, letting the notes weave through me. This was peace. Not the kind they'd promised, but one I'd carved myself. Yet, beneath it, a question lingered. Would they ever see me? Not as a tool, but as a person. I pushed it down, focusing on the life blooming in their absence. The wooden box I'd made sat on my table, its lid etched with a simple curve, a reminder that I could create without their permission. Warner's latest email confirmed the loan's dispute was progressing. A slow untangling of their knot, I replied, then stepped outside. The autumn air crisp against my skin. Whatever came next, I'd face it on my terms, not theirs. And that was enough for now. One October afternoon, I returned from a craft fair, my arms cradling a cedar cutting board, its wood warm against my chest. Outside my building, they stood Mom, Dad, Jessica like ghosts caught in the fading light. Their faces were drawn, edges softened by loss, not love. Mom's scarf fluttered, untied. Jessica's posture sagged, her usual polish dulled. Dad stared at the sidewalk, hands shoved deep in his pockets. The bank's investigation had unraveled their world, Jessica's house foreclosed, their stability fractured. I stopped, the board's weight grounding me. and felt no anger. Only a clear, steady calm. Mom spoke first. Voice thin as frost. We're family. We messed up. But you can't abandon us. Jessica stepped closer, eyes glistening. Her words a plea wrapped in desperation. I'm losing everything. Help me. Just this once. Dad said nothing. His silence louder than their words. I set the board down. Its thud soft but deliberate. And looked at them. Looked, not the family I'd once idolized, but people who'd taken without asking. Who'd come now because they needed, not because they cared. I straightened, my voice steady. Like water over stone. Family doesn't build on lies. I hope you learn that someday. Their eyes widened, searching for the daughter who'd bend. Mom's lip trembled, a protest forming. But I continued, softer now. I'm done carrying what you won't. I'm free. Jessica's tears fell. Dad's shoulders hunched, but I felt no pull to fix them. I lifted the board. It sent sharp and clean, and stepped past, their presence fading like smoke. At the stairwell, I paused. The city's hum, rising traffic. A distant siren. Life moving forward, I whispered. Not for them, but for me. Leaving is my loudest word. The words settled. A vow etched in the air. I climbed the stairs, each step a shedding of their weight. The cedar board a quiet promise of what I could build alone. Behind me, the street was empty. Their shadows gone. Ahead, my life waited imperfect. Unscripted. Mine.